My brother called me a waste in front of our parents during our father's retirement party, and they just sipped their drinks like nothing was wrong. So I walked out, but what happened after I turned around left them all stunned and silent. The first thing I noticed was the smell, leather polish, floral air freshener, and something faintly chemical that always made me feel like I was choking on fake luxury. The family estate hadn't changed. Still overdecorated like a catalog mansion. Still empty in all the ways that mattered. My name's Mason. I'm 28, and I live in Portland now, mostly working remote contracts and software. I hadn't been back to this house in almost 2 years, and honestly, I'd been fine with that. But when the retirement gala for my father landed in my inbox, formally, of course, from his assistant, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. They expected me. And like an idiot, I showed up. The second I stepped into the foyer, all that carefully suppressed dread came rushing back. Marble floors, a chandelier that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby, and giant oil paintings of landscapes they'd never visited. Opulence on the outside, dysfunction under the surface. "Is that what you're wearing?" my mother said before I could even shut the door. She didn't hug me, just looked me over like I tracked mud in. I glanced down at my navy blazer and button-up. "You look like you work in a tech startup," she added. "I do," I said, setting my duffel bag down. She didn't laugh. She never did. From the back of the house, I heard my father's voice, deep, controlled, a little too loud. "Mason's here," he called to no one in particular. I waited for him to come out. He didn't. I waited another few seconds and then moved toward the hallway, but before I got far, another voice cut in. Well, the prodigal dropout returns. Travis. He stood near the grand staircase, wine glass in hand, wearing a tailored suit like he just stepped out of a magazine ad for smug perfection. My brother. The family star. The heart surgeon with the beach house and the picture-perfect wife. I forced a smile. "Good to see you too, Travis. Thought you'd be too busy. What's the word?" "Consulting." His eyebrows lifted like he was genuinely trying to remember what I did. "Anyway, glad you made time." I turned to walk past him, but he wasn't done. "Hey, do you remember that coding thing you built in high school? That game that crashed Mom's laptop?" My mother actually chuckled at that. "Oh yes. That was a nightmare." I bit the inside of my cheek. "That was 15 years ago. Some things don't age well," Travis said. I gave him nothing. Not a laugh. Not a response. Just kept walking. That pretty much set the tone. No welcome. No warmth. Just small digs and cool indifference. Dinner wasn't for another 2 hours, but already I felt exhausted. The worst part? I hadn't even made it to the living room yet. Cocktail hour was in full swing by the time I made it to the terrace. Servers floated by with trays of shrimp skewers and champagne flutes, and someone was already on the baby grand in the corner, playing soft jazz. Everything about it screamed curated elegance. Everything except me. I stuck near the edge of the crowd, nursing a sparkling water. It felt safer that way. Less visible. Less accessible. I scanned for Danny, my younger sister, hoping she'd be around. She always had a way of making these things a little more bearable. "Still not drinking?" Travis's voice came from over my shoulder. I turned, not bothering to hide the sigh. "Still not trying to impress you." He laughed like we were old buddies. "Hey, no judgment. Just surprised. You used to be the wild child, remember? The one sneaking vodka into prom." A couple of older guests, family friends, probably turned their heads toward us. "Travis," I said quietly, "don't." He grinned. "Don't what? Reminisce? Come on, people love a good redemption story." I could already feel the heat crawling up the back of my neck. I stayed silent, praying he'd get bored. But of course, he didn't. So, he continued, sipping his wine. "Still single." That got a few chuckles from the guests near us. "You know," Travis added with a shrug, "some people just take longer to launch." My mother passed by at that exact moment, her eyes flicking toward me. She gave a tight smile like she was trying to pretend she hadn't heard, even though she clearly had. My father didn't even glance up from his conversation across the patio. And that right there was the pattern. Travis poked. Everyone else smiled awkwardly. And I stood there, taking it. "You don't know anything about my life," I said, mostly under my breath. "What was that?" he asked, like he hadn't heard me. "You working on another app, or is it still the whole freelance thing?" Before I could answer, Danny appeared beside me like a lifeline. "Here," she said, pressing a whiskey sour into my hand. "Figured you might need this." "Thanks," I said, managing a real smile. She turned to Travis. "Still playing high school quarterback in your head?" He raised his eyebrows but didn't respond. Danny leaned in toward me. "Ignore him. He's just mad your hairline's better than his." I snorted into my drink. But Travis wasn't done. "You know," he said to the group, "when Mason dropped out that semester, Mom thought he was having a nervous breakdown. Remember that?" The guests chuckled politely, waiting for a cue on whether this was meant to be a joke. "She actually called a therapist," Travis added, like it was the funniest thing in the world. I felt Danny shift next to me. Her hand grazed my arm, subtle, grounding. I swallowed everything I wanted to say, every sharp retort, every real thing I could have thrown back. Instead, I smiled thinly and said, "I'm going to get some air." I walked off before he could land another punch. Behind me, the laughter resumed like nothing had happened. And just like that, I remembered what it felt like to be 17 again, small, cornered, and alone in a house full of people. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, a long, candlelit table set with gold-rimmed plates and silverware polished to a mirror shine. A string quartet played softly in the adjacent parlor, because of course they did. My father sat at the head of the table like some retired monarch, nodding at guests and swirling his Bordeaux like he was being filmed. My mother kept adjusting the placement of the napkins even after everyone was seated. I ended up between Danny and some distant cousin I barely remembered. Across from me, Travis. Naturally, the wine was flowing. Conversation was light. For about 6 minutes. "So, Mason," Travis said, loudly enough that the nearby guests quieted. "Still working from coffee shops and couches?" Danny's fork froze midair. I felt her glance my way, but I didn't look up. "No, I have an office now," I said, keeping my voice even. "Oh wow," he said with mock surprise. "So we're making progress. That's great. What is it, like a shared space? Or, do you still take clients in hoodies?" There were a few stifled laughs. The kind people give when they don't know which side they're supposed to be on. I smiled tightly. My clients don't seem to mind. Travis leaned back, one arm draped casually over the back of the chair. "Well, hey, not everyone can be the main character, right? Some people make a good living as background players. Nothing wrong with that." That one hit harder than I expected. I stared down at my plate. "What does that even mean?" Danny asked, her voice sharper now. "It means," Travis said, smirking, "not everyone needs to be the star of the show. Some people are just supporting cast." My father looked up from his wine. "Travis," he said mildly, "ease up." "Just teasing," Travis said, raising his hands innocently. "You know Mason can take it." "Maybe he shouldn't have to," Danny muttered. My mother clinked her glass gently. "Let's all just enjoy the night, okay? No need for all this tension." I looked at her. "You think this is new?" She gave a polite laugh like I was joking. Like the years of casual cruelty hadn't been piling up at every dinner, every holiday, every gathering like this one. I turned to Travis. "You don't know a thing about my life. You just need someone to mock so you can feel important." The table went still. He blinked, then gave a small shrug. "I was just making conversation." "Right," I said. "Because to you, my life is just material." "Mason," my mother said quickly, her voice tight. "Don't make this into something it isn't." "Something it isn't," I said louder now. "He's been doing this all night. All my life. And you've all just let him." Travis leaned in. "Oh, come on. You're seriously getting worked up over a couple of jokes?" "They're not jokes. They're just dressed up insults. And I'm tired of being the one who's supposed to laugh it off." There was a long, frozen silence. Then my mother, eyes narrowed, said, "You're ruining the night." Of course. Not Travis. Not the constant needling. Me, for reacting. Travis sipped his wine with the faintest smile on his lips, like he'd just won. And maybe he had. Because once again, I was the problem. I pushed my chair back quietly and stood. "I'm going to step outside," I said to no one in particular. No one stopped me. Not even Danny. And I realized right then, I hadn't come back for a celebration. I'd walked straight into another performance. One where I was still the punchline. After dinner, everyone migrated to the parlor. Crystal glasses were refilled, jazz played softly from hidden speakers, and the fireplace was lit, because nothing says family warmth like manufactured ambience. I stood near the back wall, half-shadowed by a massive ficus that had somehow survived years of neglect, sipping flat champagne and trying not to breathe too deeply. The walls felt like they were closing in. Travis, of course, held court on one of the armchairs, legs crossed, still basking in the glow of his own smugness. My mother perched on the edge of the couch like she was in a perfume ad, nodding along to everything he said. My father nursed a glass of scotch and stared into the fire like he was already halfway out of the room. And then, Travis said with a chuckle, "Mason tried to fix the garbage disposal by watching YouTube videos. Remember that, Mom?" She laughed, an actual laugh this time. Oh God, that was a disaster. The whole kitchen flooded. Everyone chuckled politely. My father smirked, but didn't add anything. "I was 17, I said, and no one else was home." "Still," Travis said, "you practically drowned the dog." The room burst into full laughter now. I stared at him, heart pounding. "You done?" Travis leaned forward. "Relax. It's just a funny story." "It's always a funny story when it's about me," I snapped. "And you always make sure there's an audience." The room quieted instantly. "Here we go again," Travis muttered, setting his glass down. I stepped forward, voice steady. You don't get to humiliate me just because we're in a room full of people too polite to call you out. Mason, my mother said sharply. Not tonight. Why not tonight? I turned to her. What exactly are you trying to protect? She blinked, her expression tightening. This is supposed to be your father's celebration. And I tried. I tried to come here and be civil. But I'm not going to just sit back and let him keep treating me like a damn joke. Danny stood up slowly beside the fireplace. Okay, she said, hands raised. Let's all just take a breath. You always do this, Travis interrupted, pointing at me now. You show up once every couple years, play the victim, stir up drama, then disappear again. Like we're the ones who failed you. I didn't disappear, I said. I left. Because being here makes me feel like garbage. Because every time I come back, I'm reminded that I'm the scapegoat in a family that only knows how to smile when someone's hurting. My mother gasped quietly. That's not true. It is, Danny said, voice barely above a whisper. And you know it. Travis scoffed. Oh, so now it's team therapy hour? Don't talk to her like that, I snapped. You want to be taken seriously, Mason, he said, standing now too. Then stop acting like everyone's out to get you. You're not a victim. You're just bitter. I stared at him, every nerve in my body buzzing. You know what, Travis? You can pretend you're above it all, but you're just a bully in a nice suit. That landed. He didn't smile this time. My mother stepped between us, hand outstretched. Stop it. Both of you. No, I said. You let this happen. You always let him do this. She looked stunned, like it had never occurred to her that silence could be its own kind of cruelty. I'm done, I said, grabbing my jacket off the back of the chair. Mason, Danny started. I turned at the doorway. I'm finished playing the part you all assigned me. And then I walked out. For the first time in my life, no one followed. The cold hit me the second I stepped outside. Sharp, biting, sobering. I made it to my car, yanked open the door, and dropped into the driver's seat. I didn't turn the engine on. Just sat there, both hands on the wheel, staring through the windshield at the same perfectly trimmed hedges and gravel driveway I used to mow every summer. My fingers were shaking. I wasn't even sure why. Anger? Relief? Regret? I exhaled hard, trying to slow my pulse, when the front door burst open. Footsteps. Then, Mason. Of course. Travis. He stormed down the stone steps like he was chasing down a fugitive, one hand still gripping that stupid wine glass. I rolled down the window halfway. Don't. Oh, now you want to run? He snapped. After throwing a tantrum in front of half the damn family? I stared at him. You came out here just to call me a child? You embarrassed everyone in there. Especially Mom. This was Dad's night, and you made it about you. Again. I laughed, short and bitter. You mock me nonstop. I finally stand up for myself, and I'm the one who made it about me. Travis slammed his palm on the roof of my car. You always make it about you. No, Travis, I said, voice flat. You just hate it when I stop playing along. He leaned down closer to the window, eyes locked on mine. You think you're a victim. You're not. You left. You abandoned this family. You broke them. I shook my head slowly. No, I stopped letting you break me. And if that broke them, maybe they were never whole to begin with. His face tightened. You're so full of yourself. And you're desperate. I shot back. You need me under you to feel like you're standing tall. For 1 second, neither of us moved. The silence between us burned hotter than the fight. Then he threw open the car door. I stood up fast, meeting him eye to eye. Don't touch me. He shoved my shoulder. And I shoved him right back. It wasn't much, just instinct, like my body had reached its limit before my mind did. Travis stumbled, caught himself, and froze. His mouth opened slightly like he couldn't believe it. Neither could I, honestly. We stood there, breathing hard, inches apart, both shocked that the boundary had been crossed. The front door slammed again. Hey, stop. Danny's voice. She ran across the gravel and flats, her face pale and furious. Are you two out of your minds? She shouted, stepping between us. What the hell is wrong with you? Travis didn't say a word. He just turned and stormed back toward the house, shoulders hunched, muttering something I couldn't hear. Danny looked at me, voice shaking. You okay? I nodded, but I wasn't sure, because some line had finally been crossed, and nothing about this family would ever go back to normal again. I followed Danny back toward the house, slowly, dragging my feet across the gravel. My jaw still ached from clenching it so tight. My hand tingled where I'd shoved Travis. That moment, the brief shove, the stunned silence after, looped in my mind like a bad clip I couldn't delete. Danny held the door open for me. You sure you want to come back in? I gave a tired nod. Just need to finish it. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The quartet was gone, the music off. Some of the guests had left, and the ones who remained were scattered around the main hall, sipping coffee and avoiding eye contact. I followed Danny through to the conservatory, where I found them. My parents. Sitting on the couch, side by side, like they were waiting for a cab instead of a confrontation. They looked up at me like I was interrupting something. "Can we talk?" I asked, voice level. My father sighed and set down his drink. My mother didn't move. Danny stayed near the door, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "I just need to know," I said. "After everything tonight, after Travis pushing and baiting me, after the fight in the driveway, you still have nothing to say?" My mother blinked at me slowly. "Mason, you've always been dramatic." That hit harder than I expected. "I'm not asking you to take sides," I said. "I'm asking you to acknowledge what's happening." My father finally spoke, voice low and dismissive. "You're not a kid anymore. Stop acting like one." I stared at him. "That's it. That's your response." "You lashed out," he said, shrugging. "What did you expect us to do? Take your brother out back and scold him like you're 12? "No," I said. "I expected you to act like parents. Just once." My mother set her drink down, delicately. "This is not the time, Mason." "Then when is the time?" I asked, raising my voice. "When is it okay to admit that you've let him get away with everything, while you've treated me like some stain you can't scrub out of the family name?" Danny stepped forward. "They're not going to say it," she said quietly. "They never will." My father shook his head. "You always had to make things harder than they needed to be." I laughed bitterly. "Right. Because having boundaries is hard. Because not laughing at being humiliated is difficult." Travis appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. I still read from whatever internal storm he'd walked off. "You're still here?" he sneered. "I'm leaving," I said, facing them all now. "And this time, I'm not just leaving the house. I'm walking away. From all of it. From all of you." My mother rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic." I turned to Travis. "If I leave now, I stay gone. You understand that?" He didn't blink. "That's the idea." I nodded once. "Then we're in agreement." Danny was crying now, her voice thick as she spoke. "Mason." I touched her arm gently. "You know where to find me." Then I turned to the rest of them. "You'll never see me again. And for once in my life. I'm proud of that." And I walked out. No one called after me. No one stopped me. They just let me go. Which told me everything I ever needed to know. The night air outside was sharper now. Or maybe I was just feeling everything too clearly, like all the layers I'd worn for years had finally peeled away. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in the car for a long time, parked under the wide oak trees that lined the estate, headlights off, engine silent. Just breathing. It wasn't anger anymore. Not really. It was something quieter, deeper. A kind of hollow peace that came with finality. I scrolled through my phone, ignoring the missed call from an unknown number and instead opening a playlist I hadn't touched in years. Songs I used to listen to when I was 18 and desperate to escape. Back then, it was just about college. Now, it felt like escape from a lifetime. About 20 minutes down the road, still winding through the hills, my phone buzzed again. Text from Danny. "Come back. Please. It's worse than I thought." I pulled over immediately. Just sat there staring at the message, thumb hovering over the screen. I knew better. Knew nothing good ever came from turning around. And still, I turned the car around. When I pulled into the driveway again, the house looked off. The lights were still on, glowing through the windows, but it felt wrong. Like someone had paused the world just after something terrible happened. The front door was open. Not wide, just slightly ajar, like someone left in a hurry and forgot to shut it behind them. I stepped inside slowly. No voices. No footsteps. Just the ticking of that old grandfather clock in the hall and the faint hum of the refrigerator. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. There were half-empty wine glasses on the coffee table, dessert plates abandoned. My father's tie was draped over the back of the couch, and someone had left the guest book from the gala wide open on the foyer table. I moved through the house quietly, alert, tense. It wasn't just silence. It was absence. Like something had sucked the life out of the place. Then I heard it. A faint noise. A thud. Something breaking. From the library. I moved toward the sound, every step cautious. When I pushed open the door, I found Travis alone. He was pacing the room in short, erratic loops, muttering to himself. His jacket was gone. His tie hung loose around his neck. His shirt was wrinkled and untucked. He looked unhinged. And in his hand was a heavy, shattered frame, one of those oversized family portraits we had taken over a decade ago, all smiles and khaki pants, standing in front of the fountain in the back garden. He was holding the frame by its edge like a weapon. The glass was cracked. One corner splintered. The photo inside torn halfway down the middle. "You said you were done," he mumbled, "not seeing me yet. Everyone thinks it's me. But it's them. It's them." Then he looked up and froze. Our eyes locked. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice lower now, almost slurred. "Danny texted me." His face twisted. Of course she did. She's always playing both sides. "You need to put that down," I said, nodding toward the broken frame in his hands. He looked at it like he'd forgotten it was there. Then he hurled it across the room. It hit the bookshelf and shattered completely. I flinched, but didn't move. Travis ran a hand through his hair, breathing hard. They don't see it, Mason. They never do. They never see how fake they are. And for the first time, I wasn't looking at the confident, smirking brother I'd known all my life. I was looking at someone completely unraveling. And I realized then, this wasn't over. This was only the beginning of something darker. A heavy creak came from above. Footsteps, light, uneven, then silence again. I turned from Travis and bolted toward the stairs, skipping the bottom 3. Whatever was happening in this house, Danny was still here. And I needed to find her. Now, the upstairs hallway was dark, but the guest room door, our grandmother's old room, was shut tight. I heard a soft sound from inside. A whisper. Something scraping against the floor. I knocked. Danny. No answer. Just silence. Then a shaky breath, close to the door. It's me, I said, louder. It's Mason. Are you okay? The door cracked open a few inches. Danny's face appeared, pale and blotchy. Her eyes were red from crying. She pulled me in quickly and locked the door behind us. She'd shoved a small dresser against the frame, along with an old storage trunk. The air smelled like lavender and dust. I didn't know what else to do, she said, voice trembling. He lost it after you left. What happened? She ran a hand through her hair, pacing the faded carpet. Travis cornered me in the hallway. He said I'd chosen wrong, that I betrayed the family by siding with you. He grabbed my arm when I tried to walk away. Her voice broke, and she covered her mouth. I stepped toward her, gently. Did he hurt you? She shook her head fast. No, not like that. But I locked myself in here just in case. I didn't know what he'd do. I felt something hot rise in my chest. Anger. Guilt. A surge of protectiveness I hadn't felt in years. Then we heard it. Fast footsteps coming up the stairs. A loud knock. Opened the door. Travis. Danny backed into the far wall. Her hands were shaking. I stepped closer to the door. Don't, I called out. Back off. You shouldn't have come back, he growled through the door. You made it worse. She wouldn't shut up about you. Always defending you. You and your pathetic victim complex. She locked herself in a room to get away from you, Travis. What does that tell you? She's confused, he snapped. She's weak. Like you. I could hear him pacing just outside. Then his voice dropped. You poisoned her against us. You did that yourself. The doorknob rattled, hard. I grabbed the dresser and held it firm. Mason, Danny whispered, panicked. What is he? Before she could finish, we heard another voice. Let them work it out, my mother said from the hallway. Calm. Detached. I blinked, stunned. What? She's here, Danny whispered. She's been here the whole time. Another voice joined, our father's, dull and indifferent. Don't escalate things. Are you kidding me? I shouted through the door. He's trying to break in here. Silence. Then Travis's voice, low and furious. They're not going to save you. The doorknob twisted again harder. I moved fast, pulling Danny behind me. Go, I whispered. Out the window if you have to. Get down the back stairs. But what about? Go. He rammed the door. The dresser shifted an inch. Danny bolted. I heard her feet slap down the hallway, then the creak of stairs. The door cracked open a few inches before I leaned into it with my full weight. You need to stop, I said through gritted teeth. Travis shoved again. I held. Through that thin crack, I saw his eyes, wild, red, unrecognizable. And behind him, at the end of the hallway, our parents just stood there, watching. Like it wasn't even their fight. Like they'd already decided they didn't care who got hurt. And in that moment, I finally understood the truth. It was never just Travis. It was all of them. The door gave another groan under Travis's weight. My shoulder pressed hard into it, feet braced against the carpet. I felt him slam it once more before the pressure suddenly dropped. Silence. I waited. Then, he yanked the door wide open. The dresser scraped across the floor as I stumbled forward, off balance. He grabbed my shirt collar and pulled me into the hallway like it was nothing. I shoved him back with both hands, heart pounding in my ears. Don't touch me, I snapped. You came back here to tear everything apart, he snarled, circling. You think you're a hero? You're a parasite, Mason. I clenched my fists. You've been tearing this family apart for years. All I did was stop letting you get away with it. He lunged. We collided. It wasn't like in the movies. No dramatic punches. Just raw chaos, grappling, shoving, fists landing in awkward, clumsy angles. We crashed into the wall, picture frames crashing to the floor around us. My shoulder slammed into the banister. He got a punch into my ribs. I hit his jaw with the side of my forearm. We were two grown men, full of years of bitterness, finally exploding in the worst way possible. Downstairs, a voice shrieked, Danny. Stop it. Both of you. Stop. I don't know who let go first. Maybe we both did. We staggered apart, panting, dizzy. My lip was split. Travis's I was swelling. There was a smear of blood on the wallpaper. Danny was halfway up the stairs, her face pale with horror. Are you both out of your minds? Neither of us said a word. She looked past us, and then her voice cracked. Do you see them? Do you even care? We turned. At the top of the stairs, our parents stood frozen, still in their gala clothes. My father's scotch glass was half full. My mother's lipstick was smudged. They looked like mannequins at the end of a party they never planned to clean up. Say something, Danny cried. Your sons are beating the hell out of each other in your house, and you're just watching? My mother blinked, slowly. They need to work it out themselves. Danny made a strangled sound and turned away. You people are unbelievable. I looked at Travis, his shoulders heaving, eyes unfocused. I'm not like you, I said quietly. He laughed bitterly. You're soft. That's always been your problem? No, I said. I feel things. You destroy them. We stood across from each other in the upstairs hallway, bruised and broken in different ways. I'm done, I said. This cycle ends with me. You think you're above us, he snapped. No, I said. I just don't want to become you. He didn't reply. Just looked at me like I was a stranger he never expected to lose to. I turned away and walked toward the stairs. Danny was waiting at the bottom, coat in hand, car keys clenched between white knuckles. You okay? She asked. I nodded once. Let's go. She didn't wait. She just opened the door and stepped into the cold night. Behind us, our parents said nothing. They didn't even ask where we were going. At the edge of the driveway, Danny stood by the car, shivering. You sure about this? She asked. More sure than I've ever been. We got in and drove away without looking back. That house had finally shown us exactly what it was. A museum of denial. A shrine to silence. A home in name only. We left it behind together. And for the first time, I felt like I was moving forward. The diner was mostly empty. A few truckers in the back, a waitress with tired eyes pouring coffee like it was muscle memory. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, and the clock on the wall read 5:42 a.m. Danny sat across from me in the booth, bundled in her oversized hoodie, hair pulled into a messy bun. Her hands cradled the warm coffee mug like it was the only solid thing holding her together. Neither of us had said much since we left the estate. The silence in the car had felt heavy at first. Then, peaceful. I stirred a packet of sugar into my coffee. The clink of the spoon felt loud in the quiet. Danny finally broke the silence. I should feel worse than I do. I looked up. You don't. She shook her head slowly. I feel like I can breathe. Is that messed up? No, I said. I feel it too. We both went quiet again, the kind that feels earned, not awkward. After a minute, Danny looked out the window. I keep thinking about Mom's face. Just standing there. Watching. She was always watching, I said. Just never doing anything. She nodded. I think I believed, deep down, that someday they'd change. Like, one day they'd finally say sorry. Or at least admit it. I used to think that too, I admitted. But after last night, I don't think they're capable. Her lip trembled, but she didn't cry. I don't want to be like them. You're not, I said gently. You never were. She gave me a small smile, sad and real. So what now? I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the contact list. Without hesitating, I blocked Mom. Then Dad. Then Travis. Danny watched, wide-eyed. Do it, I said. You don't owe them anything. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone and did the same. When she looked up, something in her had shifted. A quiet determination. Okay, she said. Okay. We sat there for a while longer, picking at cold toast and eggs. The sky outside started to lighten, the deep blue of dawn giving way to pale gold. I want a life that's mine, she said suddenly. Not one I have to explain to them, or apologize for. You will, I said. We both will. She leaned back in the booth and exhaled. I feel like everything hurts, but in a good way. Like after you've been holding your breath for years, and now it's finally safe to let it out. I nodded. Yeah, exactly that. We paid the check and walked out into the morning chill. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of them. Of all their silence, their cruelty, their expectations. We didn't have a plan. No big speech. No dramatic goodbye. Just two people walking out of a diner, tired but free. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt at peace.